James Balog, welcome back.
Hello, Nick. Thank you. It's good to be here.
I want to go back and ask you about the college kid, James Balog, who was in college in Boston, who was constantly driving up to New Hampshire and Maine to climb mountains and get out in the woods and be out in nature. Where did that whole connection to nature begin? Was it when you were a kid, or where did that start?
Yeah, it goes way, way, way back. My mother tells me I was 2 years old when this happened, but I remember sitting in her lap in a little airplane going over the Allegheny Mountains in Pennsylvania, and we were in a thunderstorm. And I remember sitting in her lap, looking out this window at these lightning bolts kind of zooming around in the clouds and the sky flashing. And this fascination with the power of nature, this drama around me, traveling, looking at things, being amazed at things. And there I was, 2 years old, and it was imprinted in there already.
Wow. And then those adventures that you began to embark on, those climbing trips and trips to the outdoors, am I right in thinking that they just got a little more exotic and a little more extreme and a little more dangerous as time went on?
Yeah. I was really mesmerized by the joy of being up on summits and mountaintops and looking around at this amazing world, and as time went on, being in these glaciated ranges and seeing the incredible landforms all around me and being just captivated at the way nature formed all this stuff and shaped these sculptures. There was something there. There was a power and an energy that I could feel, and I wanted to put it into pictures.
It was your book Survivors that brought you here the first time.
Yeah.
You know what was so beautiful about that is that there's all these conversations and all these ways to approach the perils of our time, and the extinction of species or climate change or habitat loss or all of these issues. But I think throughout your career you found a way to celebrate the beauty so that we can have a sense of what it is that's at stake and what it is that we're losing. And that was certainly true when you first came here with your book about endangered species.
Yeah, the trick has always been to find some doorway, some conceptual doorway through which you could go and captivate people with something fresh and exciting and interesting about the subject matter. With endangered wildlife, I could have just been looking at, there's slaughtered elephants and slaughtered chimpanzees, but that's hard to look at. So I wanted to look at them in a more beautiful and seductive and engaging fashion and draw people into the story that way.
And then the same thing with the trees, except there you are again, risking your life hanging on ropes 300 feet above the ground, taking pictures of these spectacular redwood trees.
Yeah, absolutely.
You mentioned that you obviously were around glaciers as a climber and as a mountaineer. I should mention that you also had a science background. Geomorphology, is that what it was?
The study of landforms, how the Earth's surface as we see it has been formed, shaped, and sculpted. Yeah.
So you were approaching this both as an adventurer and as a scientist and as an artist.
Yeah. Basically, I had had a flawed impression of the climate change story. I thought it was based on computer models, actually. And I'm kind of a skeptic about a lot of things. And I thought that if it was a story about computer modeling, that maybe they were missing some details and maybe climate change wasn't as real as the computer model said. Now, the computer models of today are really good, but I'm talking about back in the 90s when they were more sketchy. And I thought, no, I don't know if this is real. And then I learned about the record that was stored in the Greenland and Antarctic ice sheets, these layers of ice and snow that go back nearly 1 million years and tell the story of how the climate has changed. And then when I knew that people could touch those ice layers that were preserving that story, I knew that climate change was real.
What you're describing is when they drill these ice cores and they have essentially a chronological history trapped in air molecules and water molecules.
Correct, yeah, exactly.
Throughout time.
That's right. And in Greenland, that record goes back about 175,000 years. In Antarctica, it goes back nearly 1 million years. It's a layered chronology of how the climate changed over all of these years. And when you look at that chronology, you realize that the climate of today is way outside the realm of natural variation. We're off in our own science experiment right now. The key thing was I realized that with ice and changing glaciers, changing ice sheets, that was the place where you could see and touch and hear and feel climate change in action. That's where climate change was made visual and three-dimensional, and it was right in front of you. So how do you record that? Well, I spent 2 years doing normal single frame photography where you go out and you try and evoke the spirit and the sense and feeling of the place, and it only kind of went so far. They were snapshots in time. And when I came back at the end of that second year of work, I realized, we need to leave the cameras out there and shoot every hour or half hour around the clock as long as it was daylight. And as we stand here right now, those cameras are still out there. There's 34 cameras, I think, on 16 glaciers in Greenland and Alaska and Iceland and by Mount Everest, and they're clicking away and making a record of how these masses of ice are changing through time.
And all of this was captured, the story was captured. I don't know how many of you have seen the film Chasing Ice. How many of you have seen the film Chasing Ice? It's a remarkable film, partly for its just sheer beauty of some of these places. It's such a spectacularly beautiful landscape. And also just the undeniable sort of march of climate change as evidenced by these shrinking glaciers. It's just, there it is.
It's right there, right in front of you. And so much of what goes on the skeptic side of this business and the doubter side of this, the climate change story, is they're looking for confusion. So in providing this clarity and this vision, people can get it. It kind of cuts through all the clutter and the noise, and over and over and over again in the audiences, including last night at a screening, people come up to us and say, hey, I understand it now. I really didn't know what this was all about before, and now through these pictures, through the clarity of what you're showing us, I get it.
Wow, it's very powerful. Congratulations. I mean, that's tough. That's the challenge in a way.
Yeah. There are people who are doubters and will never be persuaded, and that's fine. They're entitled to their own opinions, but of course not the facts. But then there's people who understand the story well based on the information that's been provided by scientists and by lots of us, and in the middle there's a lot of people who understand this story, but they're pessimistic, and they're in a kind of cynical despair. And my answer is that we don't have the privilege of cynical despair. And I think what we have to remember is that we have to remain optimistic. We owe it to the integrity of our own lives and our own civilization, as well as to the quality of the world that we're going to leave to others, to recognize the situation, to engage with it, and do the best we can with these amazing tools of technology and economics and policy that we have to actually fix this problem. This is not a problem that we can't get our arms around. We can deal with this.
Yeah. It's not just noble work, it's important work, and you're uniquely qualified to do it, and you're also sort of scarily, you're kind of reckless, if the truth be told.
My mother, when she first saw the film, she got to a certain part where I'm going down in a crevasse, and she said, Jimmy, I just had to cover my eyes.
But we appreciate the chances you've taken, the fact that it's all worked out well, and that you've been able to capture this record and share it with so many people.
Well, it's my duty and my privilege, so I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Well, congratulations. Once again, this is the winner of the Achievement Award this week, Mr. James Balog, who's been recognized and celebrated in the film Chasing Ice, award-winning photographer, author, James Balog, winner of this week's eChievement Award.